What's going on, people? CP3, excuse me, live in the lab, Sports on the Hill podcast, True Radio Network. Yeah, we coming to you about 10 minutes late. We had some technical things we had to work out. You see, if you're checking out my feed, I'm streaming live on Facebook, Periscope, and YouTube. You see, I got a new camera, got the green screen popping in the back. If you're watching Robbie's feed, you just see the green screen. I'm sorry. We're going to work on that. But you can always flip back and forth if you want to check out what I got going on over here and go back to Robbie's feed for that great producer feed that he puts out every week on SportsOTHP on the page and on the website. Excuse me. So make sure y'all go check that out. It's been a slow week now with only one sport going on. We're going to be recapping the 2020 World Series where we can no longer say the Washington Nationals are the World Series
They'll
champions.
always be on this banner, Carol. They'll always right. They can't rip this down, right?
Right, they can't take the batter, but we have to say, and this is going to be the first time I've said it.
But no. I think with the way we word it, I heard this online, and I think it's great. I'm willing to go for it. Is they're a 60 game World Series champion, but there are no 162 game. We are the defending 162 game World Series champions, right? Until someone goes through a full gauntlet.
That's a valid logical point. I cannot argue with your logic there, my good friend.
Yes.
But I haven't said it yet, and I'm going to have to say it. The 2020 World Series champions, Los Angeles Dodgers.
LA won two. They won two out of three possible sports. It's pretty impressive. It was kind of, I call it the rubber match of who was going to win more championships this year, either between LA or Tampa Bay. And LA got the second one, and Tampa Bay will just have to settle with the cup. But Lakers and Dodgers both win it in six, which Brian Brennan predicted for both of them. So congratulations to Brian. We'll be bringing him on in just a second. Yeah, it's crazy. I know both of us were pulling for Tampa Bay, so it's a little bit rough. Just because
I had to say that. Just upset me right now.
I know. I feel that. I feel that on a real level. But it is what it is. I mean, they put together quite a series, and in a minute we'll break down the last game where there was just some boneheaded managerial stuff, I thought, that definitely may have cost them that game in the series. And we'll break that down. We'll talk about the whole series. Also, some COVID shenanigans at the end of that game, including a potentially positive player celebrating out on the field. I mean, we'll give them grades. So we talked about it before. Hockey and basketball, we both gave them A's for what they were able to do. I don't know. Baseball is like at a C if they're lucky. I mean, they got through it, and that's why they get a C, because the passing grade. But there are some dicey moments early, middle, even at the end. So kind of limped along there to the end. I mean, what happens if he was tested positive, a couple other people test positive, and they had to go to a game 7? What would have happened? Lots of, so the league should have been happy it was over in 6. It could just, they're like, we did it, we're done. Like, but it's crazy.
That player being able to go back on. I understand World Series champions. You want to be out there celebrating with the teammates. You want to get the picture, with the team and the cup, and I mean with the trophy and everything. But he didn't have a mask on for some of that stuff he was doing. We'll talk about that a little.
Yeah, we'll definitely break that down. And what's crazy is we also get to break down the Washington football team, with only having a couple of wins, is still in the hunt for this division right here at the bye week. And we'll be watching their opponent next week, the New York Football Giants, play Tampa Bay live on Monday Night Football. And we'll be bringing in, as we talked about before, Brian Brennan, who's a Giants fan. We'll get his perspective. We'll watch him have to watch his team probably not do so well against Tom Brady. But we'll see. Maybe they've shocked the world before with New York beating Tom in some pivotal games in the history of football. So you never know what's going to happen. It would shock me tonight if it did. But We'll also talk about the NFL at large. Lots of upsets. Speaking of upsets that happened yesterday, Carroll and I did not do very well, and he still has his lead over me, which is unfortunate. I thought I was very close. If a couple of games had gone my way, I could have creeped up a little bit, but the very last minute they did not go my way, and Carroll retains his lead, unfortunately. He's number one in the Hertz House Pick'em. So props to you. You've skyrocketed through the rankings over the last couple of years. You didn't really do Pick'em before a couple of years ago. Last year you did better. This year you're number one. So I see progress.
I'm coming for the title. Didn't Arun win it last? Who won it last year?
I feel like a bunch of us were close, and then we didn't play the last week or something, and then somebody else won it. What if I kind of remember, but I have to go back and look it up. But I know that you and I both were very close and in the running, and neither of us picked the first slate of games or something ridiculous. And that's the tough part, making sure you remember to pick them. So, yeah, lots to break down. We'll also talk about the upcoming schedule for the Washington football team. And I'll give my quick keys to success if they do want to win the division. I have kind of a pathway to the division crown that I'll break down real quick at the very end of the show or sometime in the Washington football team talk. And the kickoff just happened. So the Giants are indeed playing the Buccaneers right now. And Tom Brady is out on offense to start the game. This game is in New York. New York will be playing in Washington, so it'll be a short turnaround for that 1 o'clock game on Sunday. But before we get into all that Washington football team talk, let's start off with some baseball talk. I know that we've got a couple of guests on the line. I think we're actually going to have Arun calling in today instead of doing the normal Skype video, which is totally fine. And we have Brian Brennan as well on the line. And so we'll bring Brian in first. And I think you have to raise it up just a little. There we go. Oh, different flag.
Ireland really, flag this time.
Yeah. All right. I like it. We're changing up the theme. I want to tell Brian I've been really enjoying last week's episode of Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan. Unfortunately was very busy at work and only got to the halfway point of it. I had to stop and do some other things, but I really enjoyed what I've heard so far. I actually maybe more than halfway through. I think I'm about 15 minutes left because I've already gotten to the part with Arun, and you guys are breaking stuff down. I just haven't gotten through that section yet, but it was a great interview. I love that both of you guys who have been pivotal members of our baseball talk this season, and also, of course, part of our NBA and Wizards roundtable. So I really enjoyed you two being able to break down the World Series, which we will also break down now on the show. But Brian, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. I appreciate your kind words about my podcast. Very much appreciated. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. And there's another episode. I have not gotten to that one yet. I'm getting through the backlog. But you did drop another one today on podcast networks, and I know you can get it on Spotify as well. So after you listen to this, go check that out for sure. I'm going to try to bring Arun in here to see if this works. I think he's going to have to unmute himself, though, and see if that works. Arun, are you with us?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I am.
There you are. Hello, Arun. He's in a bunker, an undisclosed location or something. So
he's doing some analytics on an upcoming NBA season already. He's hiding already.
Yeah, I put my ID as 3 for RG3.
I knew that was coming.
Nice. Sounds good. I like how my PC's asking me, do I want to restart right now? Yes, I definitely want you to restart right in the middle of my podcast. I gotta love Windows. Always thinking things through. This is why I actually am recording a little behind the scenes on a Mac, right? This is the live stream, but I stream, on a PC. So I actually run both at the same time, but the PC, although it does a good job streaming to Facebook, so I appreciate that, but it is very slow and temperamental at times.
I got something that's hilarious to tell you.
All right, go for it.
I'm in a whole bunch of groups on Facebook. I mean, like over 400 groups that I share a lot of stuff to. Now, there's an advertise your business for free group that I share everything from our show to the At the Bar radio show to my car dealership stuff. to my beats, to the apparel line. You know, they actually put me out the group, Robbie, because I share too much.
The whole group's about sharing.
And they put me out the group. I just realized that I was scrolling through sharing that I didn't see it on my list no more. They actually put me out the group, man, because I have too many business.
Too many. Well, I mean, to be fair, in the description, it's like share your stuff. I mean, that's literally what the group is for. But
Right.
Carol is just too prolific, we'll say, and got too much going on. I'm with you, man. I'm sure I tick off a couple of groups too. But you know, it's okay. It's okay. They're just they're jealous. They don't want this the smoke, right? Let's say. So all right. Well, now that we've got Brian and Arun on the line, we only got one game to break down. I was hoping we'd break down two because it would at least mean that Tampa Bay had a fighting chance. We also talked about how we're disappointed that the Dodgers, just because we're not Dodgers fans, I will give credit to the Los Angeles Dodgers. They put together a hell of a postseason. I do want to, before I start, there was one thing that Brian mentioned on his podcast, and now that I have him on mine, I can actually ask him. He said that it should not have an asterisk on this postseason, just like the NBA and the NHL don't have asterisks on theirs. Now, right. I did open with Carol my thoughts on the fact that they only went through a 60-game season. They did not play all the other teams in other divisions in their league. Do you still equate this run through the regular season and postseason run, even with an extra round and everything, and how it was so totally different than every other season, you still equate that the exact same as you do with a 162 regular championship for all the years before?
Me or Carol?
No, I'm asking you, Brian.
Okay. Yes, I do. I do think it's, considering what everyone went through with, all the uncertainty about this season and all the drama around COVID-19, just how tough it was, to get through, and the expanded playoffs as well. I do think that this was just as legitimate of a regular seed championship as any other. I think it was honestly tougher considering just what everybody went through. It's definitely weird. Like, obviously, it's a 60-game season, and there are all these crazy rule changes and stuff. But I still think it's just, just considering what everybody went through to get through this point, I still think it's a legitimate champion.
Okay. And I don't want to delegitimize the championship, so I want to make a clear delineation. I think it's a legitimate championship. My personal feeling is that it's not as hard as a 162 and the normal one. And my reasoning is, look at where the Nationals were through 60 games last year.
Right.
And where they ended up, right? So a lot can play out over the last 100 games. And so different teams may have made the playoffs this year, which would have then affected the playoffs, which would then affect the championship, right?
But the Dodgers were probably going to be good no matter whether it was a 162-game season, a 60-game season. They were probably going to be contending for the championship anyway. Probably the same with Tampa Bay too. So
the last three seasons, though, they were right in it, and then because they had to go through that extra 100 games, they fell off at the end.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's an interesting debate. I'll ask Carol now. Same question. Do you think of it in the same way? Different? What is your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say put an asterisk by it because, like you said, we didn't say it for any of the other sports, even though I don't like the outcome of this result. But it was definitely still a grind. As you say, the extra 100 games would, I felt, make a difference because, like you said, the Dodgers have been the World Series front runner for a while. And we saw what happened against the Nationals the year before. They had things going their way, and Nationals came back, found a way to knock them out, as we've seen previous before. We didn't see it this time because, the Braves didn't do what they needed to do, but I'm not mad because I didn't want to see the Braves there either. It's just, I was rooting for Tampa, and it sucks that the Dodgers got it. But, I mean, I'm not going to put an asterisk by it. They're the champions. I'm going to honor that. And then, hopefully 2021, whenever they start the season, the Nets can get back on top and take the title back.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's an interesting debate. Arun, what are your thoughts on this debate?
Yeah, the Nationals, I don't even think they could have done it this year, even if it was a 162-game season, because Strasburg was out. They had, way too many injuries. And usually, I think you mentioned this before, Robbie, the Nationals usually make the playoffs every other year, at least the last 4 years. And I think if the playoffs are shorter, then maybe I think but the playoffs are a little bit longer, and I think they still have like 7-game series, like in the ALCS and NLCS. Dodgers have to come back from 3-1 down, which was pretty difficult. They were given like a gimme in the game 6 with the decision by Kevin Cash, but other than that, it was as difficult as any other World Series, in my opinion. And it just goes to show that maybe, for me personally, just the regular season of the Major League Baseball is too long. I don't really, I mean, I guess you're right. There's a grind like that players have to go through, and perhaps that's why Kershaw was fresh down the stretch, but everyone knew the rules in the beginning. And plus there was no spring training, like, so it was harder in a sense for everyone to get in shape. So I'm not really taking any away from the Dodgers, and kudos to them.
Yeah. No, I think it all makes sense. And I really want to emphasize, I do not think that it's a delegitimate championship. I just don't know if I equate it in the same way as the other ones, you know. So I think they won what was put in front of them, and that's all they could do. So, I mean, they did, and, you know, baseball got through it. I'm going to do the scoring breakdown real fast. There's not a lot of runs to break down. We'll talk about how the game went, because it is the deciding game. And then we'll just talk a few minutes, and maybe I'll even bring a couple of off-season Nats news and notes at the end, just to sort of round it up and finish up the baseball season. So in the top of the first inning, Randy Arozarena? No. Arozarena. Dang it. I'll get it one of these days. Anyway, Randy Arozarena homers to right field. He homered at the beginning of so many games, I feel like that was like a thing that he just did throughout the series, or he came through with clutch scoring a lot, I feel. We called his name. And he had 2 hits overall in this night as well. Made it 1-0. Corey Seager reaches on a fielder's choice to first base. Mookie Betts scores 1 run, and then Mookie Betts homers to center field to make it 3-1. And that was it, right? So
yeah,
that was all the scoring. And then is that right? Yeah. It's so weird. That's the right scores. Yeah, it's so bizarre. The thing has the scoring all. Oh, okay, I see what it was. So wait, who scored the sack? Corey Seager reaches on fielder's choice for first base. Mookie Betts scores, but somebody else must have scored on that, right? That's weird. So how did the second one score? Anyway, yeah, Corey Seager reaches a fielder's choice that made it 1-1.
It was a wild pitch that they scored, like from first set to the double.
Got it. Got it. Okay, it's just weird on my app. It doesn't list that as a scoring play, which is like, but it's kind of a weird thing. But yeah, but anyway, so Mookie Betts is the hero ultimately, and that's really the important part of it. And it was just it was a low-scoring game, and I'll let Brian break down this decision by Kevin Cash, because I think he did a good job about breaking it down on his podcast. But walk me through this decision that you agreed made no sense, that ultimately I think had a deciding factor in this game.
Yeah, you know, the Rays were leading this game 1-0, and Blake Snell was absolutely cruising on the mound. He had only thrown 73 pitches, but for whatever reason, the analytics, third time through the order, said that Blake Snell doesn't do so well, and they decided to take him out and bring in a reliever, Nick Anderson, who has not been as good. He's given up a run in every appearance he's been in the postseason. So it just makes no sense to me. I don't understand why you would make the move to go from Snell, who had been doing so well. He's a former Cy Young Award winner. He's one of the, you know, your main pitchers. He's one of your top 3 guys. I don't know why you take him out in that spot, especially for a guy like Anderson with a 1-run lead. It just spelled doom. And I even remember saying at the time that was going to come back to haunt the Rays, and it absolutely did. Just a terrible decision. I mean, some people are saying it's like the worst decision in World Series history. I don't know if I'll go that far, But it just goes to show you that sometimes people rely a little too much on the analytics and not with what you see on the field, or not going with your gut. I mean, there was no reason to take Snell out of that game. He was cruising. He was absolutely cruising. It makes no sense to take him out, yet they did. So I don't get it. It was a terrible decision by Cash, and it obviously cost them the game and probably the World Series.
So remind me, it was in the 6th inning that they did this?
Sixth inning, yes.
Right. So I just want to walk through the scoring one more time because I obviously screwed it up that last one. Barnes scored on an Anderson wild pitch, Betts to third. So that was what tied the game 1-1. And then it was Seager reached on a fielder's choice, and then Betts scored. Mookie,
right. That was
did.
After that, yeah.
So, but the first one, the wild pitch, was that him that threw the wild pitch?
It was Anderson who threw the wild pitch. Snell was out of the game by that point.
He was already out of the game.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought had happened. But
bringing in Anderson was a huge mistake. Just clearly backfired on the Rays. It's the wrong pitcher to bring in that spot.
So they hadn't even scored a run yet. They had a couple of hits off of him.
Nope, it was 1-0. It was 1-0. They had 2 hits off of him.
Got it. Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, it wasn't even a run scored. I was going to try to be like, maybe if they tied it, that's something, or maybe a wild pitch. That wasn't it either. So that doesn't really make sense. Carol, what are some of your thoughts on this move?
I had the game on the second TV. I saw the Rays were up 1-0. I know with the pitching, they're unorthodox style, bullpen days and stuff like that. But they were effective. And when I saw him make the move, I didn't agree with it because these analytic guys, sometimes you got to go for the feel of the game. And like Brian said, he was in control. He only gave up 2 hits. And, he was in the, even though the analytics say third time around he doesn't do well, he was in the groove. And that's where being a manager, real manager should come in. But if you're just dedicated to off of the analytics or what the numbers say, and don't get a feel for your team and your players and what they're going through, then that's pretty much what you get. Because I don't feel that even if the analytics said that if you see him dealing and you see him having a very good game and a crucial game, and it's in the 6th inning, I just felt like he was managing scared. He's like, well, I don't want to, something, the numbers say this, and he just gave up a hit. Well, let me get him out because he was worried about being second guessed if he took it. I think that was more of a cop-out move for real because he didn't want to ask the tough questions if it did go the other way. I just feel like that's my interpretation.
Yeah. Arun, what are some of your thoughts on this call?
I think even the analytics were against this move because, Mookie Betts was hitting better off of who's going to be had better odds of getting hit off of Anderson according to analytics. And I think it's just a bad managerial mood because the manager left Glasnow in for 112 pitches in game 1. And in this game, it was like he gave up a single to the 9th hitter, and that was it. And even it was just an overall, I think it was just a brain fart by the manager, to be honest with you. And I don't know, analytics has worked for other teams. I don't even think this was even good analytics. I think he just didn't have a feel for the game, and he has to go through mistakes, in the World Series, Roberts for the Dodgers. He went through mistakes, and now he's a World Series champion. There has to be a winner and a loser, and it just makes sense to bring in Anderson, as Brian mentioned. So I think this was really a bad move. I don't know. I agree with Brian. They're probably in every single World Series is probably not an equally bad move, but I don't know if this ranks all time, but it definitely put a damper on the World Series for me, as the Rays as an opponent. But the Dodgers were clearly the better team to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just think overall the Dodgers played a better series, but I don't know. I was surprised. I thought the Rays looked really good early on, but I felt like they kind of slowed down over time. It just got a bit taken out of their sails every round, and they just couldn't get to that finish line. And I just think that also in some ways LA might be just the team of destiny. I mean, we talked about it before. They got really close the last 3 years, and they just kept on making a couple of moves here, a couple of moves there. And you see this with teams sometimes. I mean, I think of the Capitals a lot, right? There was a couple of years in a row that they were really good teams and they just got knocked out by the inevitable champion, right? And eventually they're able to push through and get that victory. And I think of this in a similar sort of way.
So you see him in 2021 with a full season and the Nats healthy. I'll take the Nats or the Dodgers. I don't care how stacked they are, who they pick up. I'm still going with the Nats.
Nice. I mean, that makes some sense. Carol, I was wondering, do you want me to go through some of the players that we are potentially going to lose in the offseason or anything like that? Or do you want to save that for another day? I mean, we can
talk about the guys who they didn't, offer up the option on their contract, because that's some crucial names that if they don't re-sign under a different deal are going to be missed from this team and from this fan base for what their contributions were in that great World Series run last year.
Right. Do you want me to pull up that list or do you have it?
No, I figured you already had it up, man.
No, yeah. I thought about it just afterwards, but
I know one of them was Howie Kendrick, which I would hate to see him go, but we know what it's about the money, about developing the young talent and getting some of these other prospects up here to see what they're made of, to see if they can go on another longer run and maybe win a couple of championships in a few years with some of the pieces they already have. So you got it pulled up, Robbie.
No, I don't. Sorry, I had it and then I lost it. So
Howie was one. That was like a week ago. I'm not even going to try to remember all the stuff I got.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian, I know you probably know. You're the baseball encyclopedia.
I don't really follow the Nats though.
I
figured you would just know this because you always know the answer.
Well, one name I do know is Adam Eaton. I heard Adam Eaton's not coming back.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, him and so Howie and Eaton, who had that patented home run celebration, dug out the drive.
Yeah,
both those guys weren't offered the option on their card. They did. I know Eaton had a nice size number. I think it was like 10 or 11 million a year or something like that. So, yeah.
So it looks like they let go of. Oh, dang! I thought this was it. No, I guess I don't have it. All right. Well, we'll just save that for another day.
For another show. That's what's great about live radio. It's great about having your own show in your own studio. You can dictate whatever the hell you want to do.
Yeah. I thought I could pull it up easily, but I guess I can't. I thought I had an article about it, but I cannot pull it up for the life of me. So, it's just kind of an interesting baseball season for sure. Overall, I'm happy that they got through it. Let's break down the COVID situation a little bit, just sort of, what happened with the, I just can't believe. So Brian, you broke it down on your show pretty well, but what are your thoughts on a player testing positive during the game and then bringing him out as part of the post-game celebration, even if it's an hour later?
No.
Yeah.
They didn't bring. No. They didn't bring him out. He found a way to get out because I heard there's an investigation to try to find out how he got out of quarantine to be able to go on the field. That they're trying to investigate, try to figure out how he got out.
But they didn't just kick him out though, right? They saw that he was out there and then
out there, but that's why they said the MLB is investigating how he got back on the field after he was supposed to be quarantined after they pulled him in the 8th inning.
Yeah. I understand why Justin Turner wants to be out on the field. That's his first ever World Series win. He wants to be part with the team. I totally get that feeling, but you cannot do that in that situation. To go out on the field after, and what is wrong with MLB security to let him just go out on the field like that? MLB security is probably made up of ex-cops and really tough guys, and they just let Justin Turner just waltz right onto the field
without a mask or be able to even take off the mask. I don't know.
The worst part about it is in the picture I saw, he's sitting down next to Dave Roberts, who's a cancer survivor. His manager, Dave Roberts, is a cancer survivor, and Turner's not wearing a mask. it's just a bad look for Major League Baseball. And like I said on my podcast, upon further review with Brian Brennan, I would fine Justin Turner his entire postseason wages for this, honestly. Or his World Series wages. His World Series wages for this. I think it's that big of a punishment.
Yeah, I think they have to do something pretty big because it's kind of ridiculous in my mind that this even could happen. I can't believe that, why are the results coming out in the 8th inning? Like, I don't, like, there was an inconclusive test before, and then there was a second test, and then it came out, and then they immediately pulled them in the 8th inning. But it's like, I had a test yesterday or on Saturday. Like, I knew the results the next day. Like, if there's inconclusive test, then he doesn't get to play until he proves that he's positive through another test. Like, why does inconclusive, then he gets to play the first 8 innings, potentially infecting other people? Like, I just don't fundamentally understand that as like how he even gets in the building, gets to play, and then plays, you shouldn't get that advantage, right? He potentially has COVID, right? He can infect other people. Like, it's beyond me that he can do it. Yeah. I was being very good, Brian, and I did not spoil that for you.
I appreciate that. that.
So we got the unbiased reaction live on our show, so you could see Brian being very excited. Do you want to let people know what happened since we are covering this?
Touchdown, Daniel Jones to Dion Lewis. Giants just took the lead.
Nice. So it's is it 7-0?
It is 7-3. It's going to be 7-3 after the extra point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just kind of crazy to me. Carol, what are your thoughts? Like, should he have been even able to play in this game? In your mind?
Well, actually, I didn't even. You brought up some very valid points that I hadn't even thought about. I was still on the fact that he was able to get back on the field. Like Brian said, I understand. You want to celebrate with your teammates, but you could have had a mask on. You could have put one of the shields on and a mask just to be extra precautious to look out for your teammates who you're celebrating with. But something has to be done. He has to get fined. The World Series wages. I say that, and to suspend him for a couple of games at the start of the next season, just to show how serious you are, because all the stuff that went on with the Miami team and then the Philly team and I believe it was one other team that had an outbreak.
Cardinals. It was the Cardinals, not the Phillies.
So, the Cardinals. Yeah, I knew one of those red fuckers. But it's you got to take it serious because unfortunately, we have a lot of folks that's not taking it serious, and the numbers are surging. It's in the reports. I haven't been really watching too much of it because it's so mind-numbing and get you super paranoid. But yeah, people have to be responsible, and these athletes, they say they want to be role models and do these public service announcements, commercials and stuff. In real life, you got to live up to that image you put out there. So I think he should get fined and get suspended for maybe the first 3 games of next season.
Yeah, for sure. At least the whole thing seems so crazy to me. Like, we need leaders to lead. We need, players. And I understand people want to keep politics and sports, separate. Some people really get angry about it. That's why we have the slogan, DC Sports Without the Politics. But at the same time, sometimes people need to stand up and make moves, right? Like, he needs to take it on himself if he's got COVID to not be out there. The team needs to take it upon themselves to make a statement and say, we wish you could be out there. It's too bad, blah, blah, blah. It's one thing if it was an inconclusive test, but the fact that a second test then came back positive in the middle of the game, and you're, I get it. Emotions are running high, but you've removed him from the game, but somehow he got back out there. The chances of him getting back out there without the team being a part of that and being okay with it would be shocking to me. That he just ducked security by himself an hour later and somehow got back to the field without anybody questioning it. Like, the team, he had to have had the team's blessing at some point, or somebody else had to know, So it'll be really interesting to see what that report finally comes out with, because it's kind of ridiculous. On an unrelated but important note, because of all these issues out there and the handling of COVID and the situation, I won't get too political, but please go and vote tomorrow. Whatever you believe in, vote. But if you really think we've done a great job with this COVID situation, You could vote for the status quo. But if you think that maybe we could do a better job in the future, think about voting him out. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I don't think he did particularly well. I think we could do better. And either way, I won't get too political. Just go vote. But I think it's an important thing. I'm happy to see a lot of NFL places, stadiums or polling places, including if you're in the DMV, FedEx Field, tomorrow is a polling place. You can go vote. You can't go watch a football game easily, although you will be this weekend. A limited number of people will be able to see that Giants game. But you can go there and vote. And that's a cool thing to say you voted in your home stadium. I mean, I'm a Washington football team fan. If I hadn't already voted, through a mail-in ballot, I would say I would go vote there. I think that's a really cool thing. So shout out to a lot of the different teams. Shout out to the Verizon Center. The Capital One Arena, old habits die hard. Capital One Arena. If you go there and you vote, you get a sticker and you choose which team you want to represent, and you get a Mystics one, a Capitals one, or a Wizards one as part of your I voted sticker if you vote inside of Capital One Arena, which is awesome. So there's no reason not to do it. If you haven't done it already, I please encourage people to do that. But I don't have a whole lot more to break down with baseball. I'll give Arun a little bit of a say on some of this COVID thing and his final take on baseball before we switch gears. But Arun, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you guys pretty much touched on everything. Turner should not have been out there. It makes me wonder if the Dodgers knew about the test before even, and then it officially came on up. And I believe Turner just came back yesterday from COVID, but I would just say shout out to Clayton Kershaw. He had a great performance after some pretty bad one against the Nationals last year that put them out. I think this actually makes the Nats look better because they beat a great Dodgers team and they actually finally won a World Series. But I also hope the Nats come back next year and are more motivated and put out a better result than they did this year.
Yeah, I agree. All right. I think that's pretty much everything for the World Series talk. Arun, I know that you're calling in. If you would like to stay on and talk Washington football, you're more than happy to stay on the line. I don't know if you were driving to an undisclosed location and had to get off, so I wanted to give you that option.
No, I'm being quarantined still, so I'm still in my room. Just don't have access to my laptop.
Got it. Okay. Got it. So, all right. Well, would you like to stay on for Washington football talk, or would you like to go? Whatever's up to you.
I'd like to stay. I'll stay and listen, and I'll contribute when needed.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, let's bring in I guess the fifth member of our team now, DC's People's Champ, and I know that he's got a lot to break down with us. Do you have any quick thoughts on the World Series before we switch gears, or?
Yes. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing, everybody?
Good.
People's Champ.
Hey, CP3, I see you got your nice little camera there. Look at all professional light. Look at you.
The other one died. I didn't put a lot of work in with that one. With at the bar radio doing 3 and 4 hour shows and having 2 and almost 3 hour shows every Monday with us. So last week it just I had to put the taps and buried in the backyard, man. I had to go get me a new one. So yeah, we got the new 120 degree 1080p view with the green screen in the background. So yeah, bigger and better things coming for Sports on the Hill podcast. CP3.
Street Ninja with the upgrade. Let me find out.
So you got to keep upgrading, baby. You got to be stepping our game up because they can't keep up with us, man.
Yeah,
you see what I'm doing.
Right, there you go. I mean, you both have created entire production things, and Brian has upgraded his setup too, and it's been awesome. I love how season 5 has evolved through all of us, and we come together. It's like some sort of Megazord, right? So, all right, Champ, what are your thoughts on the baseball?
Well, I gotta say again, congratulations to the Dodgers. Well played series. I didn't get to watch much of it, but I did see a lot of people talking about it. So big time thing for them. but it's kind of been soiled when a COVID positive player manages to be a part of the celebration. That can't be excused under any circumstances. Especially when you pull the player during the game, knowing that that's why he's being pulled, and yet he's still part of the celebration. You can't excuse that. And Major League Baseball really needs to take a very close, hard look at what went on with that for that to happen. Because he could have potentially gotten his entire team sick with COVID. Thankfully, this was the last game of the season, whereas they didn't have to worry about having to quarantine players and forfeit games or something like that. Had this have been in the middle of the season, this could have been disastrous for that team. And had this been in the middle of the World Series, this could have been really disastrous. So that's inexcusable, in my opinion. That dude should have had his clothes, been in street clothes, and sent back to wherever he needed to quarantine at. He should not have been still in the arena, in the stadium once he got that positive test. He should have been immediately told to leave the stadium.
Yeah, that's
That actually reminds me of something I was going to say during baseball talk too. What if Tampa Bay had won Game 7 or won Game 6 and forced a Game 7, and Justin Turner tested positive for COVID? What would have happened? Would they have played Game 7? They probably wouldn't have played Game 7 the next day. They probably, who knows if Turner even plays in the game. There's a lot of questions and answers. They got really lucky that the season ended with that Game 6 win for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it seems crazy because I think you would have had to delay it at least a day or two. And then you guys talked about it on your show. You couldn't do it on Thursday probably because they probably don't want to compete with Monday Night Football. So it probably doesn't go all the way till Friday. So it goes from Wednesday to Friday with that extra rest. Maybe Tampa Bay comes back and, wins the series. Who knows? And it's, it could have changed everything. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. So, all right, I'm going to take a quick run through our upcoming schedule for the Washington football team. I won't explain where, I think we need to go. I'll save that for the end of it. But then we'll also break down our next opponent. We've got a fan of that team on the line. So we're starting off with the Giants. That's going to be a home game. Then it's at the Lions. Then it's home for Cincinnati. And then there's 3 road games in a row: Cowboys, Steelers, 49ers. And then there's a Seahawks game at home, a Panthers game at home, and we end away at the Eagles, right? So the division is still very much in play. Dallas got whomped last night by Philadelphia, and Philadelphia played really badly in that game, and they still kicked their ass. And it shows that Dallas is just reeling. I mean, they've got a real quarterback situation. People talk about the Washington football team quarterback situation, but I would take our situation over that situation in a heartbeat. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, assuming, I don't know what's going to happen in this game, and the Giants are winning right now, but I thought that most of us looking back at our week 6, I had us beating the Giants. So did Carroll. So did Hurt. So did Tim. So did DC's People's Champ, and so did Benson. The only people who had L's were Dugenay, Arun, Brian, and Leslie, right? But on the flip side, people thought that almost everyone was going to win the home game with the Giants, with the exception of Tim and myself, right? So a lot of us thought we would split them, so I thought they would win the first one and lose the second one. But I could easily see that kind of be reversed. I'm going to start it off with Carol. Carol, what are your thoughts initially? You've seen what the Giants have done a little bit in this game. They've played better over the last couple of weeks. What are your thoughts about the Giants initial?
Well, I mean, the game that we played a couple of weeks ago, they came down to a 2-point conversion. Both teams, had some issues, have injuries, learning. Both, teams have young quarterbacks. So it's going to be, I think the Washington football team, unfortunately had a bye week after the performance they had against the Cowboys, and slow down the momentum of what they had going on with the offense. But I'm anxious to see how they are able to build off of that in this upcoming game that is very crucial for, the possibility of them, making the winning the division and making the playoffs. If that's what the goal is, which is ultimately every coach's goal. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl or anything, but to say they went from 3-13 to winning the division, even though it might be a under 500 record, it's still something you can hang your hat on. You lose draft position, but builds confidence in your team and helps the rebuild process. And you'll get some fans that'll be happy. Some of these fans still going to be upset. It is what it is, but it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup because both teams, as we see, Giants playing some decent ball right now. It's still early, but we're going to see what to do with another NFC East classic division matchup between NFC East rivals. It always comes down to the last possession or the last quarter of the game.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to Champ next. What are your thoughts on, after we did beat Dallas, then do you think that the bye week will stifle momentum, or do you think that they'll be able to take that and carry that through the bye week against a team that will have short rest with the Giants?
I've been thinking about this, and I don't think it'll stifle momentum. If anything, this is something to build on going forward. And also it helps with, giving yourself some rest, dealing with any injuries you may be dealing with, things of that nature. So, no, I don't think it's going to stifle them at all, especially with the Giants not playing as consistently as they should. Brian will probably know that a lot better than I would, being that he is a Giants fan. But I think that this might help the Washington football team a lot more to have this bye week. It does seem a little bit off that you would want your bitter rivals, and then all of a sudden you're off a week. You want to carry that momentum. I think they'll be able to carry the momentum and be able to put it all together. Clearly, Kyle Allen was able to put it together against the Cowboys. The run game was on point. All they got to do is just stick with that, and I think that they can definitely walk away with the W against the Giants. But it may be tough given the fact that the Giants will be already had a game under their belt coming in, whereas the team will be coming off a bye week. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Arun, I'm going to go to you next, and then I'm going to get Brian's take as the opposition.
I think Washington this bye week is probably coming. I mean, they're getting, they got Scherf back, their offensive line. I mean, Chase Young also came back. The Giants are beating the Bucs, which is pretty surprising. I think they actually probably should have beaten the Eagles. And they did beat Washington, even though I'm not sure. That game was a toss-up before the extra point. Obviously, that game could have gone to overtime. But Washington was missing a couple pieces. They have Kyle Allen with a couple more games, but they just need to stay consistent. They just can't be satisfied getting a nice win against Dallas, who honestly looks really terrible after the injuries to Dak Prescott, and their offensive line is banged up. Ezekiel Elliott, he's rushed for 500 yards through 8 games, and he rushed for 1,500 last year. It's clearly he might not even be a 1,000-yard rusher at this pace, which is pretty crazy. Washington, I think they're looking good in this division comparatively because there have been a lot of injuries, and this division is pretty awful. Other than I think the Giants are playing well right now, but other than that, in this first quarter, but I think this is easily the worst division in football, and with that, Washington has a chance to win the division.
Yeah, that makes some sense. All right, Brian, I know that you're pretty happy through the first quarter so far. It's still 7-3. The Giants have the ball, and they're marching down. It's a first down on my screen. I probably spoil something for you. But what are your thoughts so far in this game, and then as an opposition team going against the Washington football team?
I mean, so far, so good in this game. I don't expect it to last, honestly, because Tampa Bay is just a much better team overall. And the Giants are still in total rebuilding mode. And one of the things they've really struggled with so far this season has been playing a complete and full game, something they've really struggled with, something that I feel like Washington almost let them off the hook by going for 2 in that game. But, I think this it's kind of it's going to be the Washington and the Giants, they just played a couple weeks ago, so they're still fairly crisp. The teams are still fairly similar, and I think that the bye week will actually help Washington get some players back. So I think it's a winnable game for both sides, but I definitely see I definitely see these two teams. I said they were going to split, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if they split the two games they play this season.
Yeah, and by the way, Anna says hi to everybody. She's was watching
Hi,
the
Anna.
feed, and so she perked up when she heard that I said 49ers were on the schedule. So that makes some sense. So yeah, that'll be a tough game for sure. Well, I think we're going to take a little break from Washington football team talk. I do want to talk about the week of the NFL in general, and then we'll kind of, at the end of the show, come back to it, and I'll give my thoughts over like the road towards the division title, if that's still something. There's still always a debate. I think you should always go for a division title no matter what. I'm not a big believer in tanking, especially when there's teams like the Jets out there that are professionals at it, and there's just never going to get down to that level. And so I just, you don't want to be in the middle, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you're in the middle of the pack. You either want to tank professionally and get to the bottom and get one of those top 5 picks, or you want to make the playoffs. In my mind, in that in-between space, it's not a great place to be. It's a place where Dallas lives year in and year out, and you can sort of see that they don't get to progress very far because of that, right? I don't want to be where Dallas was, because remember there was like an 8-year period where they were like 8-8 every year, and they just didn't do anything different, right? I don't want to fall into that. So you want to either have progress, you want to win the division, or you want to get a good spot. But I think it's important to sort of show up every day and try your best, which is why I understand why we didn't just kind of give the quarterback the whole season and said, no matter what happens, it's your team. We decided, hey, this thing is actually able to be won, and they're going for it. Carol, your thoughts real quickly on that, and then and then I would like to get your take on some of the games from this past weekend, and we can sort of let the round table break down some of our thoughts on some of these crazy matchups.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I've talked about it several times with all the, some of the fans being, saying that Haskins is the bust and that he's given up on him. Never said that. And the fact that the team has talent and the division is where it is right now. I mean, why not? Coach's job is to win along with developing talent, trying to do both at the same time. So, I mean, a good coach is always going to have a mindset of learning and progressing at the same time. And, if you have a chance to win a division title, coming off a 3-13 season, it is what it is. But the fact that they're, playing, some good ball last week, hopefully they can build off of that. Allen looks like he's, has the understanding of the playbook. Make sure all the time he hits his check downs. When he doesn't try to force the ball and make those bonehead interceptions, he has some good ball placement. He puts it where it needs to be, away from the defender, and he has the offense, moving the ball last game and put up 25 points. So I say let's see what they do against the Giants with him having, the week that he had, and hopefully have a good week of practice. And like I said, players get a little bit more healthy, and they can go into the week 9 looking to earn their 3rd victory of the season.
So usually for a team like in their bye week, they often try to get away from football, right, and not be too much in it during a normal season. I'm curious, with all of the regulations and the fact that they all have to share hotels at certain times, and that, there's all these different restrictions that they didn't have in a normal season. Carol, do you think that they're practicing and they work through that bye week in this year, or do you think that they still get some time at home away from it, or do you think it's a mix?
I mean, they probably gave him a couple of days off, but with it being, the COVID season and they didn't get a chance to have preseason, or, they had virtual OTAs, and, a lot of folks could use the extra work. So I'm sure, they probably didn't travel due to the COVID also, but I'm sure they gave him a couple of days off. But if this team is serious about improving and getting better, I'm sure most of them are probably at the park or studying film, or maybe working in groups. So that's my mindset with the way the coach has put it out there and the way he handles his team. So That's what I'm going to assume on my end. I don't know for sure. I haven't spoken to any of my sources lately, besides some of this other stuff with these rumors that's been going on that I spoke on about yesterday that we're going to talk about in a little while. But I'm good where it is right now.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a couple other people. So, Champ, what are your thoughts? You think you just go for it? You try to win the division, or do you think that you play it safe? How do you play? Because we're right in that spot right now where it could go either way, right?
I always have to quote the great Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. You absolutely go for winning the division. You absolutely do that. There is no tanking at this point. With the division in the state that it's in, what's the point of tanking? Because even if you tank, there's still a possibility you win the division anyway. So why not go out and try to win it? Excuse me. Why not try to go out and win it? And I gotta agree with Carol's point that most likely they went and they still were working through the bye week because with everything going on with COVID, you can't, there's not much you can really do, and you don't want to take the chance of going out and doing something and end up catching the virus, and then you end up not being able to play the next game or the next two games. And if you're an important piece in the puzzle, you don't want that to possibly hurt the team. So 9 times out of 10, this season is not normal under any circumstances. And so a lot of times you got to go outside the norm. You got to go outside the box. So I honestly feel like you got to go for it. You got to go for it because it's right there. The Eagles, they're barely in the lead. You've already beaten them. So you know that if you get another opportunity, you know that they're going to be the last game of the season. And if it comes down to that last game of the season and you already have a win over them, you know you got that confidence to beat them. So why not go for it? Why not just go pedal to the metal and try to win the division?
So Brian, your team is in a similar situation, right?
Yeah.
And they're obviously trying right now. They're playing pretty well. What are your thoughts on the season? What do you, as a Giants fan, want from your season, and what do you think that the Washington football team should be doing right now?
I mean, personally, as a Giants fan, I don't think we're a good enough team to win the division, and I don't really see the point of the Giants winning, maybe like 7 or 8 games and winning this division, and then just getting immediately bounced in the first round of the playoffs when they could have maybe had a better wild card spot, a better draft spot or something like that. I personally would have, at this point in time with the Giants, the way that they are and rebuilding the way that they have been for the last couple of years, the best thing to do, I think personally, is to just get as good of a draft spot as possible and not even worry about the playoffs. But if I'm Washington, I mean, why not go for it? I mean, you've got 2 wins already. At least you have 2 wins. The Giants only have 1. You might as well, you're right behind Philadelphia in this crazy garbage division. So you might as well go for it. I mean, why not at this point? I mean, you might as well go for it.
Yeah, and I'll just ask Arun the same question at the end, and then I'll have Carol break down this crazy NFL week.
Yeah, I think it's more of a balanced approach. Obviously, you want to go for the wins, but you also, I don't know, if you want to, necessarily go for it in the sense of you're giving up future draft picks, or even trading, right now, Kerrigan's come in a trade rumor. If somebody's willing to buy Kerrigan for a really good draft pick, and you obviously have to look at that. You don't want to be in the similar situation as last year where they could have gotten a first rounder for Trent Williams and they ended up not even getting anything close to that when they traded him to the 49ers this past offseason. So it's I think you just want to you want to do the best you can with what you have. And also I think with Haskins, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe he is being a locker room problem, but if they're just benching him to win with Kyle Allen, then hopefully that's the case. Not hopefully they're just immediately moving on from Haskins to Kyle Allen. Kyle Allen has been playing better, so I'm assuming Ron Vera has some knowledge of the situation, but it is a little bit dicey that they did spend a first rounder on Haskins. I guess they're already ready to move on from him. And then they'll have to invest even more, maybe in the draft or in another offseason in the quarterback. Or hopefully Kyle Allen is the guy, because they also gave up a draft pick to get him from the Panthers.
So,
back up. He's a stopgap. Ron Rivera has said over and over and over again. Haskins had 4 games. Haskins has mechanic issues, has footwork issues, has consistency issues. Those things can be worked on the sideline if he dedicates himself. Those things aren't going to improve on the field. They're just going to compound themselves, as we saw from the first game of the season when they came back from 27 points down to the next 3 where he effectively regressed and kept on continuing staring down receivers, not setting his feet properly, the ball selling, and he had the 3 interception game. But you have 52 other players that are dedicated and trying to win. So you have a quarterback that's been in a system for 3 years, that knows the system better, that has played in the system. Unfortunately, he was on an 8-game losing streak, but he knows the system. And we've seen from the progression from the first game that he played to the 3rd game that he played. He's hitting his check downs. He knows where to go with the ball. He knows now, after getting knocked the mess out of him the first game, get out of bounds, protect yourself, and move the chains. Stay ahead of the chains. Haskins is still learning. He's had 3 offensive coordinators in a year. He only had 1 year in college. He has a lot of developing to do. That's why they said his ceiling is so high. Rivera has never said he's given up on him. All these trade rumors about Kerrigan, bull. Trade rumors about Haskins, bull. I've heard nothing from any of my sources that I've spoken to. This is all DC sports media BS. So it's not as confusing as the DC sports media is making it, because they're not used to a coach actually being straightforward, actually having a plan, and actually saying what's on his mind without a whole bunch of double talk and trying to put blame on other people. And they have to manufacture some spin to get clickbait, because all yesterday, that's all Facebook was talking about. Ryan Kerrigan been disrespected. He wants more playing time. Yeah, they should trade him. And it all came out to be bull. All because some of the DC sports media wanted to get folks in the uproar, and they fall for it every time. And that's why we started Sports on the Hill podcast, because we don't do that here.
You know what sucks? I found that article for the Nationals. Of course, I found it now, right? We're doing in the Nationals talk, stuff like that. To answer anybody's question, if they're actually listening to the whole show, it was Adam Eaton, Annabelle Sanchez, Howie Kendrick, and Eric Thames. And and then also Zimmerman, there's a question mark with him, and Suzuki, and Brock Holt, and Azubal Cabrera. And Michael A. Taylor cleared waivers and elected to test free agency as well. So that was the answer to that.
Taylor, I believe he has enough time to be a starter somewhere. So sometimes you got to go elsewhere to get a chance. But it's funny with them not giving an option to Eaton and letting Taylor roll. Maybe they, he ran his course here. He got a ring. He developed from the minors, so maybe they let him, see where he can go and see what else he can do on his team. But yeah, that was interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, because I forgot about the Zimmerman situation, because I know he said that he would still consider coming back. So we'll all see what it goes through. But let's get back to the NFL and this crazy Week 8, which we're seeing the 1-6 Giants leading the 5-2 Tampa Bay Bucks, and they're punting for the, I believe, 3rd time in this first half to the Giants, who still have the lead. And it's been a crazy week. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants win this week with some of the results of these games we had. I mean,
well, no one has them, right? Isn't that a recipe for a disaster? And not a single person picked the Giants in our pick'em.
Hey, well, that means I'll still be in first place, so that's all that
matters. My pick'em was trash this week.
Let's talk about this Minnesota Green Bay game. This game started out like I thought Green Bay was going to run roughshod with Minnesota, but I should rather say Dalvin Cook beat the Green Bay Packers. He had all 4 touchdowns. And I was going to talk about Kirk Cousins.
The first one since Ahmad Rashad, right? In the 70s, the first time he got 4 touchdowns receiving for
yes, now he had
1979.
Yeah, 1979. Ahmad Rashad, 4 touchdown receptions for the Vikings. The last time a Vikings player.
One of them was a rush. I thought one of them was a 21-yard rush. I was watching the game on my phone while I was at
I think
work.
it's just 4 touchdowns, period.
Yeah, I think it's 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I was about to say, I could have swore he ran one in, but
Okay, maybe that's 4 total touchdowns.
that was
Only one receiving touchdown, I believe.
okay.
Oh, okay. There you go. The voice of Arun with the stats. There you go.
God?
Then the Bills beat the Patriots. You know, I don't know what to say about Cam. I guess I ask you guys real quick. I mean, we all thought that Cam going to New England would be, well, I did. I'm not going to say you all did, but I thought it would be a good fit for him with Belichick and hopefully, you know, being able to work out some of the issues. Mostly it's just been injury issues with him, but, you know, this Patriots team with him running the quarterback position hasn't really looked too good and too crisp on a regular occasion. DC Pimble Champ, I ask you first, what do you think about this Cam Newton situation in the AFC with the Bills actually beating the Patriots, which hasn't happened for a long time since Tom Brady?
Well, it's funny. It's funny you say that because I saw a news story earlier today on the Score app. Bill Belichick did an interview with a local radio station, and he was very upfront. And he basically was saying, like, you know, it's a young team. They're basically handcuffed by the salary cap. They got a lot of dead money from Tom Brady, who's now in Tampa Bay, and Antonio Brown, who's also now in Tampa Bay. How convenient is that? And that's why they're having to go with, you know, young players, and they only paid Cam like $1 million because of the fact that he basically admitted that they really don't have the money to go out and get these big name guys in free agency and things of that nature. But it's very, very interesting to see the Patriots play this poorly and see that this could be the year that their streak of winning 10 or more games could end this season. What are they now? What, 2-5 right now? 2-6? I think they are. So this could be the year that they may end up not winning 10 games, which is a rarity when it comes to this team.
Yeah, that's definitely they 2-5 right now. I think.
Yeah.
2-5. Arun, I'll go to you. I know Brian, he probably has some choice words. I'm gonna let him stew on that. And I'll go to Arun. I know he's deep in this Giants game right now. Arun, what is your take on this Patriots situation?
It seems like Cam Newton, he had COVID and he hasn't, I don't know if it's lack of practice or just mechanical issues or whatever. Like we were talking with Haskins, like he was great at that game against Seattle and he was on fire connecting with Edelman. And Edelman also got injured. But it just comes down to a single turnover. Turnovers are going to lose you games, and that's what it came down to the stretch with Cam. And this one, he's running the ball well. He threw for 170 yards. But so did Josh Allen, had like a similar game. But I think just ultimately the turnover down the end of the game was what did the Patriots in. I think they're missing Tom Brady a little bit. Like I think people were, maybe New England was underestimating how much of like a game manager, even though like he's not a mobile quarterback, he makes excellent decisions. He's apparently brought Gronkowski and all these, and Antonio Brown with him, although Antonio Brown's a little crazy, so we'll see what happens. And I think Cam, we'll see. New England hasn't been in the situation in a long time, but probably since like Drew Bledsoe, and we'll see if it's also like he was also a number one pick like Cam Newton, so it's been pretty interesting in that retrospect. But I think the Patriots are going to be like, they're in trouble. They're already like, the Dolphins are on the up and up, and the Bills, they beat them, and we'll see what Bill Belichick has in store.
We are seeing a change in the guard. Miami is playing some good ball. I think they won 3 in a row, and Josh Allen and Bills looking deadly in the AFC East. Brian, what is your take on this Patriots AFC East situation?
It looks like it's finally time to rebuild in Foxborough. I mean, Cam Newton was always going to be just a one-year stopgap anyways. There was no real guarantees with Cam what going to the Patriots beyond this one season. So who knows what lies ahead for the Patriots at quarterback. They could try, keep losing, maybe get a position to get Justin Fields or dare say a Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, it's just weird to see the Patriots be this bad, honestly. Like, I don't remember the Patriots. It's been a really long time since the Patriots were this bad. And it's pretty hard to believe. I want to see Cam Newton do well, even though he plays for the Patriots. I want to see Cam Newton succeed because I really do like Cam Newton, but I just don't think they're a very good football team. And he talked about, like Arun said, the Bills, the Josh Allen, they look pretty good. The Dolphins, who knows how things go with Tua. I mean, you can make a case right now that the Patriots are just ahead of the Jets right now in terms of worst team in the AFC East.
Yeah. Now you
Real quick, Carol, real quick. There was something else in that article that I read about Belichick's interview. The other thing that he didn't mention was that the Patriots did have the most players that decided to sit out this season because of COVID concerns. They had 8 players, including some big name players on defense, that decided they weren't going to play the season because of COVID concerns. So that's another factor that has been played into the fact that this team is at 2-5 and sitting at 3rd in their division.
That's a very valid point. I did not know that fact. Good looking out on that, champ. I did not know that. Let's look at some of the other unpredicted games that passed this past weekend. We just spoke about the Dolphins on a 3-game winning streak. I didn't think they would beat the Rams. That caught me off guard. The Broncos, they beat the Chargers, I believe, on the last play of the game, last play of regulation to get that win, 31-30. The shocker of the day to me, besides the Vikings-Packers game, was the Cincinnati Bengals beating the Tennessee Titans. I don't know what to think about that. I saw something online where it said they had 5 offensive linemen were all backups or something, and Joe Burrow had a hell of a game. I didn't see the game. I haven't followed them closely, so I asked you guys, was this a huge shocker for you, and can anybody verify those facts or not, that the whole offensive line was, dissembled and using backups, and this young quarterback was able to will his team to a victory, an unexpected victory over a legitimate team in the AFC. Brian, I'll go to you first.
I was kind of shocked. Honestly, that the Bengals won this game. The Titans were looking really good last week going into that game against Pittsburgh, and then of course they lost that. Gostkowski missed the field goal that would have tied it. And then to go into Cincinnati and to lose this game this week, I can't. I'm sorry, Carol. I can't confirm whether that fact about the offensive lineman is true or not. But I do know for a fact the Bengals have been struggling on offensive line throughout the whole season. It's been a huge weakness for them, and Joe Burrow has just been killing it. I mean, this was another great game for Joe Burrow. I mean, he's an absolute beast. What a great draft class we're looking at here with Burrow and Herbert. They both look incredible. I was shocked that Tennessee lost this game to Cincinnati, but it's the biggest win so far of Joe Burrow's amazing career for sure.
No doubt. Arun, what do you say about the Cincinnati kid, Joe Burrow?
I think it was not that shocking, actually. Speaking of your favorite guy, Mr. Jay Gruden, they competed with the Titans at 3 points earlier this season. They lost by 3 points. And the Bengals have been playing pretty well. I think the Titans defense is a little bit overrated. I am a little bit surprised that the Titans only scored 17 points, but the Bengals, they've been playing well offensively. Against the Browns, they almost pulled off the upset. I think Baker Mayfield, he somehow pulled out a game-winning drive, and that one without Odell Beckham Jr., which I thought was a good game the previous week. And I think the Burrow is amazingly every single week they've been a huge underdog, and every single week they've covered. So this has sort of been coming. They have a really good receiving core: T. Higgins, A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, Giovanni Bernard has been playing well. I didn't pick the Bengals to win, but I did think this game would be close. And to me, it's not really that shocking, and stranger things have happened in the NFL.
Yeah, like the Giants going up 14-3 on Tampa Bay.
Oh, spoiler!
Spoiler! No, Carol, you were supposed to wait. I wanted his reaction. Dang it!
I forgot. I forgot your stream. See, normally I'm streaming, so I'm normally behind everybody else.
No. I was waiting. I didn't even say anything.
No.
My bad. I guess I had to do the spoiler tonight. My bad, Brian.
It's okay. It's okay.
Hey, you're up. Hey, you're up. It's still a good thing.
It's okay.
Anyway, all right.
Yeah, this is pretty shocking. This result is pretty shocking.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice touchdown too.
Yeah.
It's been a wild week in football, man. I swear it has been.
By the way, hey, Carol, got to give a shout out to former Washington football team running back Samaje Perine, who got a touchdown in that game.
He took one away from Giovanni Bernard, which would have won me my fantasy football. The hell with Perine. Hell with Perine. He ain't do nothing here, and he go there and score a touchdown and cost me a fantasy football victory. I just got first place.
So yeah, I mean, just so many crazy matchups. I mean, I can't believe Carolina lost. I can't believe that Cincinnati won. That Browns Raiders game was crazy. I was right about the Colts, but we already talked about the some of these other ones. The Dolphins was really shocking. I didn't expect the Dolphins to win. No one did in our pick'em. I was right about the Steelers. Unfortunately, I kind of wish that they had a different last play. I mean, he looked down that guy. Another guy was wide open. I wish they had a different play. I would have been happy to give up the pick'em for that. Only 3 people actually got that right and picked the Steelers, and it was Arun, Carol, and myself. But the one I really want to talk about is this Chicago-New Orleans game, right? So, very frustrating. I'm sure that, Michael Edgley is happy somewhere because, potentially they should have won earlier in the game. And there was a bunch of mishaps and some questionable play calling or some questionable officiating. And ultimately, the Bears were able to get it to go to overtime, right? And then there was a back and forth in overtime. And the Bears were unable to get the victory. But that would have been so crucial for me. I mean, only 3 people had the Bears, and it would have been my chance to really creep up on Carol here. And it was the difference maker in the week. I know we all were bad. I know that People's Champ alluded to us all being trash. I know you and I both had 6 wins, and I believe, Carol, you had a grand total of 7, and Arun, the number 1 star of the week, with 8 correct picks. But I mean, that's terrible. No one got to 9 or 10. Just so many upsets. Too many people went chalk this week. Everyone kind of picked the things. Brian, real quickly, what are your thoughts on that end of that crazy Bears-Saints game that unfortunately cost me?
Yeah, there was the controversial call whether the forward progress had been stopped on the Bears receiver. I can't remember his name. He fumbled, and they ruled that forward progress had been stopped, and they let the Bears keep the ball. They were able to march down the field and tie the game. I don't know about that call. I thought that was kind of a questionable call. But the Saints were able to get the win in overtime. Will Lutz, who missed a really easy field goal at the beginning of this game, like a chip shot, easy field goal, completely redeems himself by making the field goal that wins the game in overtime. This was a good win for the Saints. I can confirm that Mike is very happy, and he's looking forward to their next game against the Bucs. They've got a really big game coming up against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, one quick thing, your field goal statement reminded me of something that we didn't bring up, but that was a crazy field goal miss in the Raiders-Cleveland game. Did anyone see that, where it was going in, and the wind at the last second just took it and went wide? It was, I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but it was a crazy,
yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, crazy. Carol, did you see that crazy field goal attempt? That went
Honestly, I didn't. I didn't see the second games I was doing at the bar radio, so yeah, I didn't see much. I was at work on the first games, and broadcasting for the second game. So yeah, I just checking out highlights and rocking and rolling and checking out my pick 'em in that losing week in fantasy football.
Yeah,
Hey, Brian,
What's up?
the receiver was Cole Kmet, who's the tight end. He was the one that made the catch, and his forward progress was stopped before he fumbled, and that was his only target and catch in that game.
Damn. Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, I actually have the field goal thing. I wonder. Hold on, Carol. Can I try something real quick? Why not? It doesn't hurt. I can actually show it live on this thing real quick. Oh wait, sorry. Participants. Oh, I have to change the host. That's what that problem is. Make a co-host, and the answer is yes. All right, here we go. Share screen. All right. I don't know if this will show up.
There it is.
I'm gonna show it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I don't know if you guys got to see that, but do you see that, Carol? It was just like it was going straight in and just like went and it hit off the upright. But ultimately, it didn't hurt. They were able to get that victory anyway. But yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That Chicago New Orleans game was absolutely insane. It was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And
did you think it was a bad call? Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I can't really say. Honestly, I can't call it a bad call because clearly his forward progress was stopped. He was moving backwards, and then the ball came out. The problem was the refs didn't blow the call. I think it would be a bad call because the refs didn't blow the whistle. So that's why it looks like a bad call. But if you look at it, he was stopped and then pulled backwards. So technically they were supposed to blow the whistle, but they didn't. And then he ends up fumbling the football and things of that nature. But honestly, when you look at how that game played out, Chicago didn't even deserve to win that game, period. Their offense looked very anemic through three quarters. It wasn't until the fourth quarter when Nick Foles finally woke up. But it's also crazy that Drew Brees, who now holds the lead for most career touchdown passes with 560, his 560th touchdown pass was to Taysom Hill, the backup quarterback, on a great route that he beat two defenders to the end zone. That's what makes that crazy. That was just a crazy game all the way around. New Orleans definitely deserved to win that game. They played pretty well throughout the game. Chicago's defense kind of kept them in the game. That's probably what was the difference, in my opinion, that their defense kept them in the game, but ultimately the Saints, who I picked, were able to come away with the victory. Thank goodness, because then my track record would be really bad this week if it didn't.
So, Carol, do you have any final thoughts on the week that was before I give my past the bye week for the Washington football team? And we'll kind of wrap the show up after that.
Let's see. It's just it's going to be a crazy season like we've seen in all the other sports. We talked about how sorry the NFC East is, and they're going to have a division winner with maybe less than under 500 record, less than 8 wins possibly. I just say just keep tuning in. You never know what to expect. Like I said, we got the Giants on top of Tampa Bay, almost halftime. It look like they're going to keep that lead of 14-3. So it's going to be a crazy season. All I can say is I hope I do better next week in fantasy football.
Right. So it's 4th and 1. It'll be an interesting decision whether they just kick the field goal, which I think is what they're going to do with 8 seconds, or if they would go for it. So they ended up using their last time out there. So we'll see if they get a couple more points on the board here. So the upcoming week, we talked about it briefly. So it goes Giants, Lions, Bengals, Cowboys, Steelers, 49ers, Seahawks, Panthers, Eagles to end the season. If we want to win the division, as we've talked about, I think that you've got to win the next 4 games. So you got to go on those big heaters, kind of like in 2012, because the Giants aren't that good. The Lions are definitely winnable. Cincinnati's definitely a winnable game, and you got to take care of the Cowboys that look like trash. If they can win those 4 games, that puts them in the driver's seat for the division. And so that allows them to have, I believe, there's 5 games in the remaining part of the season. They have to win 2 out of those 5 between the Steelers, 49ers, Seahawks, Panthers, and Eagles. Steelers is a loss, right? They're too good. 49ers and Seahawks, I definitely think one, if not both of those are losses. So that comes down to having to win the Panthers game and the last game of the season, in my mind, to do it. If they're able to win those 6 games, that would give them the division. They might be able to win 1 less, but that's kind of how I see it. I had them originally only winning 3 games out of the bye week and ending their season at 6-10. They'd actually have to win 4 to get to 6-10 at this point. But through the first couple of games, the only people that had it right was Tim and Benson. They're the only people that had 2 wins. I had 3. Brian had 1. Dujanet had 3. Carol was optimistic with 5. Hurt had 4. Ken also had 4. And Leslie had 4 as well. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. Ken, now that I've explained my pathway to winning the division, do you agree with my assessment? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when we did the preseason picks, I did pick them, I believe, to go 8-8, and it sounds like from your path, 8-8 will win the division, which would make sense. I definitely have no optimism that they will be Pittsburgh, San Francisco, or Seattle. I have no optimism whatsoever. But again, we just said it. They're really, really good teams. So again, Cincinnati is winnable. As with the defense that we have, if they can just go after Joe Burrow, who's a rookie, I'm pretty sure if he gets rattled enough, they'll be able to get to him. Panthers are looking up and down. Philly, even though they yeeted the Cowboys last night, it was an ugly blowout. Let's be honest. I mean, even Eagles fans on social media talking about, it was a win, but it was an ugly one. So I honestly, I'm honestly with you on your path here. I think that 8-8, which is what I picked at the start, will end up winning the division and getting them into the playoffs.
So Carol, you were very optimistic for the first half of before the bye. You were less optimistic in the second half, including having a 4-game losing streak for the Cowboys, Steelers, 49ers, and Seahawks. I know you want to do over with the Cowboys now that you know the Cowboys that we are. Although it's a Thanksgiving game, it's a rivalry game. You can't say that there's an automatic victory in the NFL. Do you think that they will win the next 4 in a row and win 2 out of the last 5 to get to 8-8 and win this division?
I really can't see that happening. It's possible, but I don't think I don't see that happening. I mean, if they do win the division, great. I'm just happy, like I said, to see progress, to see some of the young talent developing, to see Allen doing what he's doing. I'm hoping Haskins is working on the issues that he had, so he can get back on the field, so we can see if he's the quarterback that can lead this team, to where they want to go. So I really don't see it. To me, it'd be highly unlikely. It'd be cool if they did, but to me, with the holes that we have and some of it, especially with the Landis Collins injury to the secondary and having Cameron Curl taking over that spot, it's going to be a learning curve, and they're going to have to play a game like they did last week for the rest of the season, and I don't know if they can do that.
Do you think, here's another question, Carol, follow up. I saw one set of predictions that 7 wins or 6-9-1 might win the division in this division. It's that bad, right? And they have Philadelphia beating the Washington football team because of the bye. That the Washington football team ends up at 6-10, and Philly ends up at 6-9-1 and wins the division. Do you think that that's a likely scenario?
That'd be perfectly 2020.
Right, yeah, a bye wins them the division, right?
The tie helps with the division. 2020.
Yeah, so that I thought was interesting. All right, I'm going to go to you, Arun, next. You had us being an abysmal without a win before the bye week. So we already have 2 wins. You had 2 wins on the whole season. Do you think that they get some wins in the back half and spoil your prediction, Arun?
Yeah, I think they probably beat the I mean, if we see that Cowboys team again, Washington beats them again. I think, I don't know. I need to actually go through that schedule. Like, I think it really depends on how they come out in the Giants game, to be honest with you, because they showed they can play well. Just can they play well consistently? And I think they'll take as few as 6 wins to win this division, because the Eagles' schedule is pretty tough. Washington does need to beat the Eagles in the final game of the season for that to happen, but only 2 of their other opponents are below 500, meaning like the Eagles will lose they play the Browns, the Seahawks, the Packers, the Saints, and the Cardinals, and they could easily Eagles could go 0-5 in all those games. So they need a little help. I don't think Washington gets to 8 wins. They have a possibility to get to 6 wins, but even then, I think even if they don't do it, they're still making progress in the long run. I think they're a little better than I thought they were going to be. And this division is a lot worse than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, Brian, what are your things? Where do you you originally had only 1 win, so they did a little better than that, but only 4 wins in total. Do you think that's about right, or do you think that they might pick up a couple more wins than that? Where do you see the Washington football team?
Well, I mean, when I made my predictions, I didn't think the Cowboys would be as bad as they are or as bad as they've been. So, I mean, I guess there's a chance for Washington to make a jump into second place in this division. But I still see Philadelphia winning it. I still think Philadelphia is ultimately the best team in the division, although they're not very good themselves. I still think they're the best team. So I'm gonna stick with maybe I'll go up to like around 5 or 6 wins, but no more than that for Washington.
How many do you think Philadelphia gets in them winning the division?
Probably like 7 or 8, honestly.
Do you think that they can get to that number though? That's what I'm wondering, because
Philly?
because Arun just listed off a gauntlet of a schedule, and I just don't know how many.
I don't know. It's gonna be tough. I mean, it's tough. It's definitely gonna be a challenge. We'll see. I still think Philly's the best team.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I don't necessarily disagree. I think that they've played well. We destroyed them in week 1, especially from the sack point of view. So, I mean, that's the only head-to-head matchup that I can, compare them to. I mean, the teams are obviously very different in that game than I feel like they are right now. Different players are having playing time due to injury and different quarterback play. So, obviously, I think the teams are very different. But I thought they played particularly bad last night, and they only won because the Cowboys, had a rookie quarterback and the team, just kind of imploded on themselves. But I'm not that impressed with Philadelphia. They might still be the best team, but I'm
not that impressed with any team in this division, honestly. Yeah. I mean, they're all pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. So
impressed with the Giants.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Hey guys, real quick, a story just came out a couple of hours ago that there's a possibility that there's a proposal being submitted that the playoffs could be 16 teams instead of the normal 8. Hey, Robbie, I just sent the link to you.
I see that now. So would that be for this season, or the time about going forward?
Yes, it will be this season. In case that the coronavirus causes games to be lost, they would extend the playoffs to 16 teams. It would be 4 division winners and 4 wild card teams.
Wow.
Got it. So the thing is, there's not going to be enough bye weeks towards the end of the season. So if they can't make it up, this would be a way, kind of like what the NBA did with the bubble, to sort of, and the NHL did, to extend the playoffs to make them a little bigger, or give teams an opportunity to have more games that way. I would say it more equates to what the NHL kind of did with the extended format, because they didn't feel like they had enough games to complete their season. So that would be interesting. I'm reading that now. It's so it's
it says at the end. It says aside from adding a week 18, the league may have to expand the playoff field if some of its clubs can't fulfill a 16-game schedule.
Right. So they try to add one more week, and if that wasn't enough, then they would go to this thing. So it's the NFL Competition Committee is submitting a proposal. So that's That'll be interesting. That is breaking news. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. That would be really interesting to see for sure. I do want to address one thing that Carol was talking about earlier with the Ryan Kerrigan and the misinformation that's gone out there and running rampant. There was an original story that said that they wanted to trade because he didn't have enough playing time, although he's doing really well with his limited, reps. And we talked last week about thinking that we probably aren't going to get the value needed for him back. I'd be curious to see if his agent did end up leaking that, because they questioned Ryan Kerrigan and he said, I never said that, which might be true. Maybe he did never say that, but maybe his agent leaked that that's what he wanted. So both things can be true, right? He could have never said that, but the agent could be trying to see if there's other value. Carol, I know that we broke it down last week. We thought that his value being a veteran leader on the team was worthwhile. This is the last year of his contract, right? I believe. So we would get a compensatory pick if we let him go in the offseason, assuming we don't pick up another player at that position. I believe that's how it works. But you think that the value for this year in helping them develop, even if he might want to move on, because we originally thought last week, our information was he wanted to retire a Washington football team player. He wouldn't want to go anywhere, right? So this information could be different, right? He's saying it's not, but obviously something got leaked. It doesn't just appear out of nowhere usually.
You have Ian Rappaport involved. Sometimes things do just appear out of nowhere.
So
I think it with a grain of salt. Like I said, I saw when you sent me the link the other morning. Like we talked about on there. I was like, well, that's what it is. But I told you it didn't sound right to me, because you don't go from saying you want to retire somewhere and you'll take a hometown discount to, on your next contract just so you could, stay with the team. So all of a sudden, week 8, you want to be out of here because you're not getting enough playing time. It just didn't add up to me. And then the fact that, folks on NBC Sports Washington, JP Finley was putting it out there, and some of these other tools on social media was putting it out there. And then, once they put it out there and they're so-called affiliated, even though we break most of the relevant Washington football team news before they even get a whiff of it. But, that's neither here nor there. So they can keep listening to that, manufactured outrage and BS and clickbait. But you always get the best sports coverage here. And until I hear from my sources, it ain't official.
Yeah. Which explains, if anyone was wondering why we didn't share it. So many outlets shared it that day, and we didn't, because we like to wait and find out if it's true, because it's funny that then, like a couple hours later, Ryan Kerrigan's doing it, and everyone's posting an image of Ryan Kerrigan saying, I didn't say that, on all these stories, calling them fake news and all that bullshit. So I agree with Carol. I just thought it was interesting that it all came out the week after we had kind of discussed it on the show last week. I think one potential thing that could be different if I'm Ryan Kerrigan is if I think that I'm retiring as a Washington football team player, but I'm still getting playing time versus 7 snaps. So I don't know what was told, what his role was going to be, and if that aligns with what it is today. That potentially could be an issue maybe for him. I hope it's not. I hope that he's a veteran guy and he could just tutor some of the other people, but I don't know if what's going on. So did something happen, Carol? I saw your face.
Yeah, my OBS feed just might have jacked up real quick. Go ahead, keep going. I still got my Periscope feed going.
Yeah, no problem. And this is why we stream on multiple platforms in multiple ways. But anyway, I'll give everyone a final say. I'll start off with Arun, get his final take on the Washington football team at the bye, and any thoughts you have going forward, or any final thoughts you have before we let you go.
Yeah, I don't know if Kerrigan wants to be traded. I wouldn't have a problem if he did go, if they did trade him and they got a good value back and he went to a contender, because it's not as great as Kerrigan has been, it's not like Washington has been a contender here. It's nice for a player to retire and stay their whole career at the team, but also would definitely see his side of wanting to play for a Super Bowl. That's what everybody dreams for. And I'll leave with the one stat of the day, which I thought was the most interesting around the NFL, was that Le'Veon Bell was the highest paid player on the Jets when they played he was on the field, and he was playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I thought that was an interesting stat.
That's funny. So he got paid because he's still getting paid, right? Because he got traded, right? Or was he?
He got cut.
No, they cut him.
So they basically paid him to play against them. So
yes.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. I love that stat. Arun always got the gold nuggets there. I had to break it down to understand what you were saying, but like that's kind of hilarious. And I'm sure he was happy with the results of that, being on the winning team, which I know that Brian, when he was previewing that game, was shocked that it was a 19-point game, and they ended up being way over that. So, yeah. I guess that they didn't have a high enough line in that game. So, well, thank you, Arun, as always. We look forward to having you on a future show. I don't know if it'll be for more Washington football talk or if we'll bring you back in for basketball, but we always appreciate your insight for all the sports and baseball as well. Yeah,
sure. Thanks for having me on. And basketball is coming back probably this Christmas. So thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, sounds good.
Woo!
Kid is always stat guy and random RG3 reference guy.
Sounds good. All right. Well, I'm going to let Brian give a plug for the episode that launched today, or you can even plug the one with Arun that was on Friday, which I really enjoyed. But
I listen to that one. I gotta listen to that one.
Yeah, I gotta listen.
It's a good one. It's a good one. I think you'd like it.
Yeah, Arun's one. I'm halfway through it. Very good, and I'm next queued up is the one from today. But Brian, I've been loving your revival, and let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Upon Further Review with Brian Brennan. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's on Spotify. We've got a Facebook page. We're on Stitcher. Basically everywhere you can find your podcast at this point. We're there. And just to sign off, I just want to echo something Robbie said earlier. Please go vote. Please, please, please go vote. It's very important, more than ever this year. So get it done. It's your civic duty. Please go get it done. Please vote. That's all I have to say. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you for voting in Maryland. I know that you did, and that's awesome. And so I think that's very cool. So I know that you're a New York transplant, but we got your vote in this state. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to vote as a Marylander.
Very nice. Awesome. All right. And DC's People's Champ. What do we got looking forward to in the No Spots podcast this week?
Well, before I get into the No Spots podcast, I want to echo everybody's sentiments. Please, please, please go out and vote. As an African American, many people fought and died for my right to vote, and I exercise that right every chance I get. And this year was the first year that I voted as a Virginia resident. I did early voting about a few weeks ago, and it was really cool. So please go out and vote. Definitely go out and vote. No Spots. This is going to be a pretty big show coming up because AEW has a pay-per-view coming up this Saturday night, Full Gear, which is their annual November pay-per-view. And also New Japan also has a big card coming up. It's Power Struggle. And also New Japan announced today that the participants for their juniors tournament, the Best of the Super Juniors 27. So I'll break that down, as well as what happened this week in wrestling. I'm currently watching Raw right now. That's why I'm looking this way, because I'm looking at Raw right now. So we'll break all of that down. That podcast will actually come out Saturday afternoon before Full Gear, because we'll be doing predictions for Full Gear, and I'll be doing a review of Power Struggle. So that's coming up this week on No Spots, and then be on the lookout, because I'll be doing a separate podcast with my boy Sage, with my homie Sage, talking about World Tag League and Best of Super Juniors Tour that's running simultaneously starting on November the 15th.
So people can check you out, find you on No Spots Podcast on Facebook and on all the different podcast platforms. And I'm working on updating a back end of my SportsOTHP Web and Games website. And we're going to have a recommended podcast section. And we're definitely going to add yours and Brian's. And we already have Power Play Point podcast with Anna. So we'll add that to it. We'll also add Dujanay's podcast. And a couple of other people that have been on our show and that have been loyal listeners and followers and fans and contributors to it as well. So I'm building that whole section right now. It should be launched in the next couple of weeks. And so I look forward to and continuing
we're
the relationship.
We're on Spotify. Yeah, we're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor, all the places where you can find your podcast. Just search the No Spots Podcast and definitely follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/NoSpotsPod, and on Twitter @TrueNoSpotsPod. And we're on YouTube as well for the visuals for our podcast as well. So definitely check us out. We're growing and growing.
Yes, I love that you guys use StreamYard now. So it's exciting to be able to see you and Sith break it down live. You can, if people want to catch it live, they can, and they can interact with it, or they can catch the podcast replay later. Thank you so much, Champ. We'll talk to you soon.
We'll be streaming live this coming Saturday at 2 p.m. So make sure y'all come check it out.
Sounds awesome. All right, perfect. Definitely go check us out. Check them out. We've the True Radio Network is still alive and kicking, and I'm still happy and proud to represent it. Carol, I thought it would be a 1 hour show, and we ended up being almost 2 hours. It'll never be a 1 hour show. That is just one of those things we'll never do. But I enjoyed it. I love breaking down baseball and football with you, and I can't believe the Giants are up 14-6 in the second half. I did not expect that when we were planning the show out, but I do want to echo what everyone else has been saying. My final thoughts will be to everyone to go vote. Carol, I'll ask you real quickly. Have you voted already, or where are you going to vote when you're going to do it?
I did the early mail-in ballot. I wasn't dealing with the craziness of going out to the polls. I haven't went out. I wasn't trying to go out and do it. I'm off tomorrow. I want to relax. It's been a long couple of weeks, and I still got work to do. But I'm actually going to stay in the bed until almost 10 o'clock tomorrow, which is lately has been like a vacation.
What state did you vote in? Was it
Maryland, of course.
Maryland, yeah. Right. All right, sounds good. So that's good. Well, we got a bunch of Maryland voters and a Virginia voter, but no one in D.C. I was kind of thinking that'd be cool. But it's funny that we're a D.C. podcast, but all of us are, either in Maryland or Virginia side. I never really thought about that. Well, Champ used to be in DC. That's what I was thinking of, but he's moved out into the Virginia side. But it's a great show. Look forward to breaking down that Giants game. We may have like a special guest next week to talk with Giants with us. We'll stay tuned to the show page. We'll announce more about that if we're able to get that to happen. Carol, I know that you're killing it at selling some cars. You want to give a quick little shout out to that, and we'll get out of here.
Oh yeah, if you've been checking out my feed, you see the flyer. Check me out at Waldorf Honda. We don't just have Hondas, we have all different makes and models. Hit me up, inbox me if you got my number, call me, or come on down to 2450 Crane Highway, Waldorf, Maryland, across from the Popeyes in the Lowe's. You can't miss the Waldorf Honda dealership. And if you saw the beginning of the show, I played some of Renegade's video. I'm going to wrap up and finish and replay the whole video to end the show. So Robbie probably want to end his feed. I'll continue on my feed. If you're watching Robbie's feed, oh, by the way, if you were watching on Facebook, I'm sorry, my feed isn't on there, but you can always go to my YouTube channel or my Periscope channel to catch the rest of the video. Carol Porter III, but that's with 3 eyes, not the number 3. SportsOTHP apparel. See, I got the shirt in the background. Got the District of Champions banner. Robbie got the pillow. He got the HTTR version of the SportsOTHP.
And I see that you got it on today too.
I got the hoodie on.
That was your 40th birthday present, right? If I remember.
Yeah, the weather's changing, so I had to pull the hoodie out today. So make sure y'all go hit the website and copy you some gear for the weather changing. Make sure you go check out, be on the lookout for Renegade's upcoming album Legacy. Make sure you go to YouTube and check out the video Money Convo. He already got over 4,200 views on it already, and many more. He already has over 40,000 streams on it, so go check it out. Up and coming, about to take over the game. Affiliated, True Radio Network, At the Bar Radio, 151, CP3, Robbie G, SportsOTHP. It all rhymes. It all go together because it's just how we roll. DC Sports without the politics. It's not just a catchphrase. It's not just a motto. It's what we do. And we out. See you next week.